Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Conservation Commission June 13, 2016 meeting. Tonight we have one new business, one old business, and the new business is about notice of intent 84-497 filed by Frank Bridgman, Bay State Square LLC, to construct 78 townhouse-style residential condominium units with associated driveways, parking areas, stormwater management system, and other amenities at 121 Randolph Street. Before we open this up, just in case the board hasn't had a chance to read this, this particular property has been issued a building permit, and it already went through conservation and was approved on 12808 for 2 3-story residential buildings for 105 units. And at this time, it has a new file number, or maybe this is the old file number, but it has a file number of new file 0840497. Now I'd like to open it up to the applicants.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, I'm Attorney Sean Riley, 500 Washington Street in Abington Center. I'm here representing with Bay State Square LLC, who, for the board members who weren't present at the hearings of a couple of years ago, Frank Bridgman and Tony Pusateri are two of the principals of the company that owns the property at 121 Randolph Street. Mr. David Kelly from Kelly Engineering Group is also here with us tonight, the engineer of record, and David will be making the bulk of the presentation tonight. But just as an overview, and one point for the record, I have submitted copies of the mailing notices, the receipts, to Nancy already, so that's all been taken care of. As the chairman noted, this property at 121 Randolph Street, which some people know as the old ice cream factory, some people know as the old mattress factory, some people know as an eyesore, was actually taken over by the town a number of years ago for taxes, and then the LLC bought the property in its as-is condition. They have spent the last couple of years now cleaning up the property to get it ready for the new construction, and in doing that they raised the existing building, and they've been working to clean up this. There was essentially 23 hazardous waste sites from the prior owners. They had left behind little presents. That cleanup is essentially completed, and we were ready to kind of start moving forward with construction. And as was noted, it was originally approved as 105 residential units in 2 3-story buildings, which I can tell you, on the 14.5 acres, this was approved by the Planning Board, Zoning Board, and the Conservation Commission in the previous permits. This was a 55 and over limit, and all the access came off of Randolph Street, to and fro, Route 139. The connection to Greenwood Street, which presently exists, was going to be restricted to emergency access only. There was in the original plan a gate, an Opticon gate that the fire department or police department could open with the light system they have, like they do with some of the traffic lights. So this would not be an open access way, it would just only be for emergency purposes only. And part of the prior design, at the request of the Greenwood Street neighbors, was to design it so that when Greenwood Street got plowed, the town could continue and push the snow actually onto our property, and they'd have a snow storage site on our property instead of blocking Greenwood Street. And that's the purpose of the hammerhead turnaround, so the plows can turn around and get back out off the street. You'll see in just a second that those elements are still carried forward in the new plan. The new plan is basically a downsizing. We're cutting the number of units by 25%, proposing at this time 78 units. We've removed the 55 and over, because frankly, 55 and over was part of the problem why this didn't move forward, because when the economy kind of really went down, a lot of the banks became very hesitant about putting money out for age-restricted housing, because by its name, you're restricting the pool of buyers, you're restricting when you go to resell it, the pool of buyers, so the pricing and the value can become tenuous. So that kind of dried up and was not really out there for you. So this is not restricted, but at the same time, we're putting on our own kind of construction restrictions in the form of no more than 2 bedrooms. 2-bedroom townhouses, every one of them is sprinkled, even though they don't all have to be. We're sprinkling every one of them, which the fire department appreciated. We've already been to the zoning board to get the revised permits. We actually need less zoning permits for this project. Some of them had to be revised. For example, instead of having 105 units at 3 stories, now it's the 78 units. So we just kind of updated the numbers. We had to get certain other permits just to have, now instead of having 2 large buildings, we have smaller buildings next to each other. So those permits have been granted by the zoning board. We will have to return to the zoning board for 1 permit at least, which is the special permit to do work within the local floodplain and wetlands protection district, which was previously granted for the prior project, but we will go back to the zoning board for that. But the reason we are doing that separately is the zoning board usually wants to know that the planning board engineer and frankly the Conservation Commission has reviewed the plan and approved it before we go back to them, because they don't have a consultant that they work with. So they'll be relying on the work of Beals and Thomas. Much like I'm sure the Conservation Commission will be interested to know what the planning board's engineer has to say. One of the goals of this development is to try to utilize the areas that there already was a building, or there already is pavement, or there already was disturbed areas, to try to basically build on top of what already is there, and to also preserve the green space, preserve the river, if not improve the river and the wetland ecology. When this is all said and done, there'll be approximately 78 to 80% of the entire site will be green space. So we're really trying to minimize expanding the site beyond what it already is right now. We are hoping for the sewer ban to eventually be lifted. In the prior project, we had already received DEP's approval for an on-site sewer treatment plant. It would be a subterranean plant. That permit still exists, but it's for the 105 units. Obviously, that's a $1 million construction project. It was a $1 million permit to get, and it's $1 million on top of it to build it. So we're hoping, and I think the board's aware, that there's a pending agreement between Abington and Brockton that the EPA is reviewing now. So if sewer is lifted, we'll obviously be connecting, we'll be required to bring in sewer anyhow, and of course the town water will be in there. With the reduction in units, we would see that there'd be no real thought of any increase in traffic going from 105 units down to 78 units. But the planning board we have been in front of, and we will be returning to them, so we're kind of mid-course with the planning board right now. And we would expect that based on some of their comments, whatever updates come through that planning board, we would bring to you for your final review and approval. At this point, as a general review, I'd like to turn it over to David, so he can talk more about the actual wetlands and conservation issues, the things we're doing to try to abide by the law and to improve the wetland status. So David Kelly would like to take over.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is David Mackwell. I'm with Kelly Engineering.
I'm sorry, David.
We suffer from the problem of too many Davids in our office.
Sorry, Dave.
Hence, Sean is calling me David Kelly. But either way, I'm going to walk through, show a nice job on a summary of the whole project, walk through a couple of the reasons why we're here. As noted in the record, the chairman noted that this project was previously approved for the 2-building, 105-unit development back in 2008. And just to refresh the commission a little bit, we came back, I think, last winter in 2015 to get that piece of the permit extended, because once the cleanup was going to happen, we were going to get back to the drawing board. So here we are today. Couple clerical issues. What we requested in the notice, I think, was we still have a valid DEP number for a project, which also defines the resource areas on the site, and providing a project with the new number, we would subsequently file for a certificate of compliance for the old number immediately. So we do have a valid line. So we are here tonight we need to work in some resource areas. We have 3 primary resource areas that we need permission to work in. The first one being bordering vegetated wetlands. So this map here, I kind of shaded up today to give us a good handle. I'll move it over here for you guys if you want. Is that harder for you, or is this good?
Russ, why don't you move over here?
That might help both of you.
You're on TV.
Cool. So we do have we have wetlands, which you can see all throughout these areas here, and those are, some are isolated, as this land has been reworked, I think, a few times over the generations of different developments that have been here. We also have river that comes through the site, It actually goes right through the old building and a riverfront area associated with that. So much of the development is going to be redevelopment within the riverfront area, and we need to seek permission to do that. And the third resource area that we'll be working in is what they call the floodplain. Not drawn out very well on this map, but we have some detailed maps within the notice of intent, a couple of which I blew up here. So why don't we start with overview of the plan. I think Sean laid it out pretty well. It's very similar to the older plan with the respective access points and internal site circulation. But primary access is at the front, and we have a series of smaller driveways and a main driveway through the middle that accesses all the units. Each unit in this particular development will have 208 parking stalls for the entire development, but each 78 unit will have one car in a garage. So everybody has a garage, taking some car parking off of the paved areas, therefore reducing the impervious area. So with a project like this that has multiple resource areas jurisdictional to the Conservation Commission and also subject to the 2008 stormwater management standards and being a redevelopment project, I think I'll start with the stormwater concept we came up with to redevelop this site. And the one thing that we will note right away as part of the redevelopment and the stormwater management system is kind of going to be to reconstruct pieces of the puzzle that were there, which is we have 2 culverts go through the existing foundations. Those will both be reconstructed. And there's also an existing two culverts that cross the river in this location. We're going to propose to improve those with box culvert and use access to the upland on the other side in the exact same location. So this particular site, we tried to do the best we could with working in the existing envelope and also pulling back from the existing envelope, because that's part of working within the riverfront where we can. We're trying to get close to it. We're going to pull it back a little bit. We'll get to that one next, and I'll just briefly, we did a color of how we're going to improve stormwater management on this site. As we had said, this site's been fairly well developed for a while now and with no stormwater management. So we're bringing this into current standards with a series of best management practices. And I'm just going to start at this side of the site and we'll work our way around. So what we have here is what they call a rain garden, which is a low impact development technique that would overflow into the drainage system. Everything ultimately will overflow to one of the 2 pipes that cross the site. So what we have in this color here is what we call a rain garden. We also have throughout the entire site utilized subsurface chamber systems that will provide an infiltration component and also provide some detention for all the impervious areas. And I believe we have 5 of those around the site, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 infiltration systems. Few of them are just for the roof areas. Anyone that's not in a roof area would have pre-treatment with proprietary stormwater quality devices in addition to catch basins. So, we have all of those things going on. We're providing full stormwater management. These areas up here are 2 stormwater ponds. They'd be infiltration and detention ponds in these areas. The area that we have over here is a little bit related to another board that I'm going to show. It's a little repetitive, but we've got a lot of things going on to try to break it down for us as best we could. This right here is what we're going to be doing, the compensatory flood storage area, which will give us far greater flood storage on this site than exists today. And this little piece here is where we are proposing to do a wetland mitigation area. When we have to build this particular stormwater pond, similar to the old permit, it's right, we're doing it on top of an isolated wetland, which is not jurisdictional over the state, because I think it's only about 500 square feet, but under the Abington local bylaw, it's jurisdictional, so we need permission to fill a small isolated wetland in the area of our stormwater management pond. And then we're going to like to provide a new wetland area that would be adjacent to and bordering on a wetland that borders the river. So it would be a little bit more valuable as well. So this particular site has floodplain, as I had mentioned at the beginning. They're going to go into another resource area of the floodplain. And within the floodplain, the existing building actually serves as, they call it the hydraulic jump in between two different floodplain elevations, the old foundations and the culvert system associated with it. So what we've shaded out here is basically where you see the orange color is where we need to fill a little bit of the existing floodplain to accomplish the work that we need to do. Part of which is really just to gain access to get to the back site, and another little bit so we can get this stormwater pond regraded and the like. So what you see of these green areas are where we're actually going to be lowering the grade a little bit. It won't be a paved area, and we'll also be restoring it with vegetation. All of these areas that you see down here are currently, some is paved, and some is just overgrown on the edge of the old development, and this is the only portion that is currently wooded. So in order to do the floodplain, you have to fill and lower it, and you have to push it around a little bit. So we've done all those calculations. They're very detailed within your report to accompany notice of intent. So the last piece of our resource area is what they call the riverfront area. And I know there's a lot of colors on here, and it looks a little bit busy, but this map is also within your notice of intent. And what it's trying to show is that a large portion of the site is encumbered by the riverfront area here. The river comes right through the middle of the site. The two dark blue lines represent the 100 and the 200-foot riverfront areas. And the darker hatched area represents riverfront area that's currently developed, that will continue to be developed. The lighter green areas and this smaller blue area represent areas that we are proposing to restore and / mitigate. Part of the process, as we move through this process, we're going to get on board a wetland ecologist to give us some planting plans to make these areas restored to a more natural state than they are today. So in these blue areas, we're actually taking out pavement within the riverfront area, and we're going to restore it. In the green areas are areas that are currently had been cleared at one point, but we're going to be doing a little bit of compensatory storage in the floodplain, and then revegetating that into a natural state. In order to make the development work, we also have one more area where we need to do just a little bit more work in the riverfront area. The first thing you'll notice is we try to get those areas as far outside the 100-foot riverfront zone and into the between the 100 and the 200. A large portion of it really is so we can construct our stormwater management pond, and another piece over here as we come around the corner on this side. So what we've done here is essentially at almost a 2-to-1 ratio of anywhere where we're doing some disturbance in the riverfront, we're trying to give back more than that. So that is how we've approached the riverfront area as well. So we had, you know, a lot of items on the list to work through on this site, as we always have. This is a very encumbered site with the river going right through the middle of it. And we think that we've got a plan together that works well in relation to all of these different items. And we will be working through with the Planning Board and the Conservation Commission on making a final plan. I think that Sean had mentioned we have been through one round with peer review consultant through the Planning Board, Beals and Thomas. And we took in some comments from the Planning Board that will most likely result in some sort of change to the plan, to the layout. I don't know if Sean touched on it, but those changes were more geared toward two things: making it a little bit more pedestrian friendly and trying to get a little bit better of a development with respect to internal green space and a pleasant community. And we've already started working on that, and we will continue to do that. But as Sean said, we are at the first meeting here at the Conservation Commission. We've been to the Planning Board once, and the Zoning Board has signed off on the relief needed to accomplish the project. At the end of the project, that may require us to just go back one more time to the ZBA to update the plan of record and reaffirm any relief that we got at the time. But we'll probably be working in this area to try to make a little bit more green space in this area, in the community in the back, and also to provide some more pedestrian ways within the development to maybe connect the two roads. So those were the basic comments from the planning board that we'll be working through. And with that, I think I hit all the points that I wanted to talk about, and I would entertain any questions or comments from the commission to make this a better project for everybody.
Sure, what I'm gonna do, just so everybody knows, I'm gonna open it up to the board first, and then we'll close that and open it up to the public.
Can I just add one thing, Mr. Chairman, just so it's clear with the board, about the extra green space that Dave just mentioned? That one of the ideas of the plan was to see if we could find a place to add either kind of an open area, you know, where either people could just kind of sit around and have, you know, a meeting space, a lawn area, or potentially walking paths through the 14 acres. We told them we'd look at that. Because there's a lot of wetland issues, we're not really sure we can design it. People may make it on their own, you know, no one can't stop anyone from walking in the woods. But that's one of the things they're looking at. And then the other one was just having more of a designated kind of sidewalk. We have some in there that connect certain areas, and they were looking to have even more. As we mentioned earlier, David mentioned, each building, each townhouse has its own garage and its own driveway spot. So we're trying to minimize the footprint, and we have complied with the minimum required number of parking spaces. Actually, we have a little bit more to make sure that there would never be an issue with people parking on lawns or things like that. So you may see an update in the next revision based on the feedback from the planning board as to, might be an expanded lawn area somewhere. I'm not sure yet about the walking trails, but in all, I don't think you're gonna see a significant change, just maybe some tweaks, that's all.
I do have one question, just before we start. Realizing the permits are already existing and so forth, you could build, just take off the 55 and over, and you could build the existing footprint that is under the first DEP number, correct?
Well, we'd have to go back to the zoning board to remove that condition of 55 and over. And if that was agreed to, then yes, we would. We have all the permits needed to build
Yes.
105 units.
And I just have one other question. If you took the new plan and put it over the old plan, is it the same footprint? In other words, if you could overlay it, or are you expanding?
That's a great question, and I think we can provide an overlay. And I
I'm
don't
just,
think- don't
it
think
looks
we
like
get
it's
it.
a little larger.
It's well, we're coming back into these areas here.
Mm-hmm.
And in these areas, it's very similar.
Okay.
But it is slightly larger of a development footprint because we are going with, you know, single plat homes as opposed to going up with more
Right.
units.
Okay, I'd like to open up to the board for questions.
When do the conditions of, orders of conditions expire? I don't know.
No,
We
extended
We extended them, yeah, I thought we
Yeah.
extended them,
Yes.
okay, so we have a couple more years?
I
Is that
think,
what?
yeah, I think
A year and a half?
February of 18.
Yeah,
You
okay.
came in January, correct? I think, January or
December or
February?
January.
Yeah, but February makes
I
sense.
forget when we went.
Makes
It
sense.
was last winter.
Okay,
Yep.
The other cold,
Differential.
cold sidewalk, that's what I remember.
The other difference the town knows with this proposal is that obviously we're not gonna build two large buildings immediately. This would be obviously built in stages over
Mhm.
time, so it may be a 2-3 year build out, you know, based on the demand and all. So it'd be kind of a controlled construction.
Questions?
yeah, the hazardous waste cleanup, I don't think we got any documentation. Where are you guys in that process?
We're
Are you at
working-
an RAO, or are you still cleaning it up?
We're working through with the LS, the site professional on a slightly different cleanup because of, we had an AUL on the site prior.
Mm-hmm.
Over in that one area there. And so we're gonna clean that up, completely out now. So we're working on a cleanup, plan on that particular spot.
So I know you said you had a bunch of little sites, but was it
Yeah.
one number under DEP, or did you have a couple of different DEP numbers for the hazardous waste cleanup?
It's just one number.
Okay, so could you provide the documentation as to where you are today, whether it's, you know, you went through phase 4 or RAM, or, sorry, remedial, yeah, or if you've actually finalized it, because I don't think we got any of that. The AUL might be of interest, but I think that would be helpful for us to understand where the contamination is, because we don't know right now as a board?
You want me to show you?
Yeah, I mean, is it in the wetlands? Is it in the sediment?
It is in this particular area here, right where this is.
And that's the only spot that's left,
Yeah,
that you
that's the
cleaned
only
everything
spot.
else up?
Yeah. And,
That'd be nice.
The other thing I
Good.
wanted to point out that they didn't point out as far as the disturbed area on this particular development, the wastewater treatment plant took up this area here as
Yeah.
well, which isn't there as, on this particular plan.
So the AUL conditions are that you're gonna have pavement,
Yes.
coverage, so,
Yeah.
so the areas where there was contamination, there's actually gonna be pavement.
Well-
Is that the only, that's not the only
That-
spot that's gonna have pavement
That was the only spot that was required for the AUL.
for the AUL? And there's no
Yes.
other AUL anywhere on
No.
the property, just
No,
that spot?
one particular spot there. But now we're going through the process.
Getting it lifted, right?
Well,
Trying to.
no, it's not that it's in place
Okay.
because the project wasn't done. That was the plan for it, but we're working on the cleanup plan to remove it completely. Take it out, and so there will be no AUL on the site. So it'll be completely
So-
cleaned up to a residential
So you have a response
standard.
action outcome document already and an AUL, is that correct? Am I misunderstanding?
No way you will.
We didn't need the AUL.
Oh, so you don't
until we
have an
did it.
AUL?
Nothing in place, that was, we were
Nothing
planning
in
on
place, and
doing
did
it.
you do a response action outcome report on this
I
yet?
believe so.
I believe so. Nova Armstrong is handling it,
Yeah.
which they have since the beginning. And our goal is to do the soil removal out of that one area that's no bigger than the size of this room roughly, to clean the site completely then.
Okay, and is that in a wetland or is it outside the wetland?
It is in a wetlands,
It
it's
is.
within the 100.
But you're not coming to us to address that as part of this?
It will be
Notice of
part of
intent?
that. It's
You're gonna
going-
add it to this notice of intent, or are you gonna
Yes.
just do a separate one?
We may do a separate one, I'm not sure on that.
Okay.
We're still working, we're waiting for them to come back.
Okay, and if you could get us a copy of the latest documentation, I think that would be helpful for us to understand, because I know years ago there was some sediment testing on the border of the Shumatusket, and you probably
Again.
cleaned it up.
Yes, we just did some more sediment testing. We've had
That's great.
all kinds of testing.
Boring.
It's great that you're cleaning it up, because,
Everything.
it's definitely does go into eventually ends up into our water. So that's great. It's good news. So, thank you.
Anybody else?
I have a bunch more. Oh, well, if anybody else wants to talk. Go
I
ahead.
just have one question.
Go ahead.
On this compensatory flood storage area, what's that, about 40 feet from the abutter? The edge of it?
Well, let's get back to it here. Let me bring up the map, I'll show you. Too many maps, there we go. I think it's in the back of this one. So the only place that we're significantly providing compensatory storage where we would need to clear trees or anything is back over here.
Mhm.
And that's over here, and it's a good distance from any of the homes. It's, wetlands as you come this way.
Right.
There's nothing, and it's a big hill up the other way.
So have you submitted any kind of plans for the construction of the compensatory storage? And, any written description of that and what you're gonna do for the replication area in that area? I didn't think I found it, but it
No,
could have
you
been in
didn't,
there.
and that's a great question as well. So usually what we would do is we would contract with a wetland scientist for a protocol that we would give to the commission, and then we
Great.
would have them be present for the plantings and the actual work.
So
They
we
like-
will-
They
we
like
will
to be
want
there to
that.
make sure it's
Yeah.
successful and we'll hit the targets of the successful plants.
And the compensatory storage, how are you gonna, how deep is it?
Yeah.
What
The only
are you
one
gonna
of
do
these
with it
is-
afterwards? Are you gonna plant it with grass, or what are you
Well,
gonna
these
put in there?
Those are all great points, and I think we'll do, these areas that are kind of adjacent to the existing building footprints will be lowered slightly, not a great amount that you would really notice. But they're also gonna serve the double purpose of being revegetated as improved riverfront area. So you'll see they're very similar areas that we wanna reestablish, and they're also adjacent to our new site. And where we're pulling the footprint back, we can lower that grade a little bit to meet the incremental compensatory flood storage.
And could you explain how, I understand the stuff that is adjacent, and it's near the river, but the stuff up on the left-hand corner, how how does that, the water flow and get there? You know, you're replacing storage in a different spot. How does the water, does the water flow that way? Or, I was having a lot of trouble reading the map,
Yeah, it
so.
kind of, well, the river comes through here.
Yeah.
So what this area is, and in this part of the site, the floodplain elevation's 129. So what we're doing, and this little black line is actually existing wetlands. So this is a lowered area that is wetlands associated with the river. And just at the toe of the slope of that, after it goes up the hill, we're gonna make it a little bit bigger, have a little bit more wetland area, and then have a place where when the water backs up, it can go over to there.
So it's
So we're-
basically, the water's going uphill to it. Is that, did I
Well, no,
get that?
it's not going uphill, because the way these things work is, you know, there are restrictions along the entire river.
Mhm.
And as it backs up a little bit, the whole point of compensatory flood storage, you need to give it somewhere to back up, because over time, we keep on filling all those little places that don't get wet all the time, then it has nowhere to back up.
So, but it's replacing something over on the right-hand side, right?
You know, looking at the calculations, we're kind of overcompensating, and we're not really 1,000% stuck to doing exactly this. We have a lot more volume coming out than going in, so.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to keep pecking at
okay.
this one, but I'm not getting it. And it's just,
Okay.
we are doing compensatory storage.
Yep.
Where is the area that we're replacing? You know, it's over,
Right
it's
in
right in
here.
there?
And
And
right in
so you're relying on the river that flows down this way, right?
Mhm.
It goes down that way. You're relying on that overflow to go to
Well,
a higher elevation. It's
all by- it's-
counterintuitive, frankly.
Well, you have to think about it a little bit different. Compensatory flood storage and flood storage is always done in a 1-foot incremental basis. So you cannot compensate uphill for filling wetlands, for filling floodplain downhill, because it wouldn't count.
Isn't that what you're doing?
No.
That's what you described to me. I just don't have
Well,
the,
you're looking left, right, up, down.
well,
You need to
but,
think by elevation.
so what elevation is the compensatory storage and what?
The compensatory storage here is between elevated, it's at the upper area, between 128 and 129.
And what's in between?
Right, and what,
In between, it's a 128, where's the
127,
128?
it's on-
Can you
it's
show
on
me
the-
where the 128 line falls?
it's actually gonna be in the color here.
That's that, okay.
So it's this yellow line here.
All
It's
right.
the 128.
And then the 127 is where?
Blue.
It's the blue line.
The blue line?
Yeah, and then you've got 126 coming on both sides. So in order to gain access to our site and have some cover.
I'm
we're
not
filling a little
disagreeing,
bit
you
in
need to
here.
fill it there, I understand
Yep.
that. I agree with you, and,
So, but if you look anywhere over here, there is nowhere at 129. So the only place to compensate would be over here. Because it's all lower than that on this side.
Correct me if I'm wrong, I think in the prior plan that was approved, some of the compensatory flood storage was actually in the underground parking garage
Mhm.
of the buildings.
Yep.
That was going to be allowed to flood
Yep.
if there was a flood. Remember, this is
Yeah,
if there's a flood. We're putting in a drainage system where the one no longer exists, one does not now exist.
Yeah, and the way these flood studies work is, it kind of starts at the bottom and works its way back up through the restrictions along the way.
so the 100-year floodplain, where
Mhm.
does that lie on this map? Because when I looked it up on the DEP maps, it was covering a good portion of the site. I mean, it was the entire entrance area.
It's the 129, okay? And what it shows on there, it shows everything, but there's two, when you go to the flood study and you look in the details, it splits right at the building. It's 129 on the top part of the site, and then there isn't, you're normally on a river, because it's going up slowly, you'll see all the lines across the river. Here, it jumps right down from 129 on the upper side to 126 on the lower side.
Okay, so I don't think that I saw that discussion in here at all about the 100-year floodplain. If you could add that, that would be, I think, a good help to us to have something in the files, because it's not there, and the fact that you've made a change, you know, you've gone back and looked into the actual studies, that usually requires some documentation to go with it, because you're not, usually we just take what we see on the DEP map, otherwise we usually
Well,
add some
I
documentation.
think the map is in the file, you might want to,
Where would it be?
you might want to look at it before we say it's
There's
not
so
there.
many, so many, so many maps that I may have not,
Okay,
but I was
Let me
looking.
help you. So we do the detailed flood storage calculations. Usually we separate these reports with tabs.
Yeah,
So so.
that's floodplain analysis.
So this is the support documentation. As I had mentioned, we do them all by each incremental
Yeah,
step. We look at the grading of the entire site, and we calculate all the areas and volumes associated with it. You'll see we have existing volume that's provided within the site and the proposed total volume within the site. So they all get increased, so we have more volumetric.
yeah, you did a calculation.
Storage
I am-
capacity
I understand
within
that.
the site.
I understand that. I think what I'm trying to say is that you do not, you've determined that the 100-year floodplain elevation is 127.
We did not determine that.
We did,
FEMA
did.
determined.
FEMA determined that, but when I get the map off of DEP, and that doesn't, you know, all I see is a big blue blob.
Right.
And I don't have access to that information that you're talking about, and we don't have any you didn't write that down somewhere to
Usually
explain
we
it.
would.
You have this here, which is great.
Yeah, but I'm sure the flood map is in here.
Uh,
We always put it in here.
Could be.
Yep, it's here.
Here, I'll turn it around so you can look at
You
it.
don't have to. That's okay. So that is the flood map. So, and see the lines that go across are the elevations. So let me just,
So where is the,
I'm
oh,
trying
here,
to
here, that
find
should
it, I'm trying to
show.
find us. So we are right in this area. So this map is 128, 125. So when they redid the maps in, I believe, 2012, they changed the datum. We've left our plan on the old datum, which is an adjustment of approximately 0.8 feet. This is why it's 125. 125, 128 on that map, and we've got a translation on our plan for the 126, 129.
All right, I'll take a better look at it when.
Sure.
When I can probably
Yep.
blow that up, I can go to this.
Yep,
'Cause I think those I can find online. Sorry, I interrupted you.
I'm all set.
You're all set. Or anybody else, does anybody else have anything before I start asking some more questions? On the stormwater, I actually had a comment. I looked up your rainfall estimate, because and according to, when I looked up the NOAA Atlas 14, Volume 10, Version 2, 2015, which had been revised since, you know, they've updated a lot of the FEMA, the NOAA.
We heard that, yeah.
And the 100-year storm is at 7.65 inches, and right now you've used 6.5. And the reason it triggered it is usually I'd seen a 7 for us.
Yep.
And the 10-year and the 2-year need to be corrected as well.
We did observe that as well. I think this report was done still using what they call TP40.
Right.
The NOAA stuff came out.
Right, it just is, I think it's because it's different.
Yep, but that's officially been
Yeah, that did.
superseded, so you're correct in that observation.
Okay.
Thank you.
This wetlands delineation was done in 2006.
Mhm.
And I know we have extended the orders of conditions, but it is well over, we're at the 10-year mark. And things do change, although there's a lot of concrete surfaces out there. What I think would be advisable for all of us is if you could have your wetland scientist, verify in a letter that, that it's the same, or if there's any changes.
Okay.
I think that would be wise of us to do, because we have usually made people go back and reflag. I assume that, I think when we went out, most of the flags weren't there. Prior to development, we're gonna look for you to put those flags back out.
She already did.
She
So if you
did.
go out now,
Awesome.
we've surveyed them all back in.
Okay, I didn't go out assuming they weren't there. I was trying to figure out, with what you're doing here, whether you needed a wildlife habitat study or not. Do you have any thoughts on that one? Because you are in the riverfront, you are making some odds there. It did seem to trigger it, but I wasn't quite sure.
What we've done, as I stated at the beginning, is we tried to take the areas closest and we tried to pull back a little bit where the bank was there and the grades, and just not disturb any of those things, and then provide some more vegetation closer to that area. So I don't know if we need a
wildlife habitat study, I'm just asking you to double check the triggers for that one.
Okay.
Because from what my read was, it looked like it probably did, but I wasn't quite sure. And figured you guys probably know better than I do on that one. So I think what you were trying to do here is stay within the disturbed areas so that, you didn't trigger any of the riverfront changes because, obviously in a developed, disturbed area, you can redevelop. And so I don't think that there is a whole lot to talk about in the 100-foot buffer. I guess my question to you is, are we disturbing any percentage? What's the overall percentage that we're truly disturbing? Do you know? 4%? Okay. And that's in the
way I calculate.
the 100 and the 100 and 200, or?
I went and looked at all that today, and I'm like, okay, we didn't put it in. We didn't
Right.
put that in.
You did put that, I didn't
We didn't put that in the
find it.
report, and I was interested, so.
Yeah.
I looked at all of the areas, so essentially, I think, there's a lot of riverfront area here, and when you look at if you take just the new portions where we're working and divide it by the total, it's 10%, and it's all within 1 and 2, the new areas. And then within the other areas, it's not a net of 4, that's just the pure, what we need to work on, that's within the 200-foot riverfront area that is not currently degraded. It's 17,000 square feet, which is 4%. But if you take the total, it's less than that because we're giving back, a little bit more.
No, it's the.
So that's the answer to your question. Is
Perfect.
It's certainly not over 10, and it's not within the 100.
Okay, and did the planning board review your calcs yet for the stormwater?
They did, and we'll be working through another iteration.
Okay, and can we get copies of those comments when you get them?
Sure,
That would be great. We
You
got a
want the-
DEP letter for this one.
we did.
I don't remember what Jerry's got it in front of him. You can tell people what it says.
For the comments, do you want the next round of comments, which are probably the most updated comments?
Yeah, that would be fine. That would be fine, because
We'll go one more, and then we'll keep you in the loop
perfect.
of all of the correspondence with the deals and ties.
That would be great, because they usually do a nice job. It's just, it's nice to follow the trail, so I don't ask you the same questions that they've already answered. Here you go. Why don't you tell us what it says? You can't read it.
Are you good?
I just wanted to see what it said here. They were just telling us that they don't want to result in less than 5,000 square. They were worried about 5,000 square feet of wetlands delineate disturbance, and I think we're well below that. You're going to need to go get a 401 water, is not required, a 401 water quality cert. You don't have endangered species. And if the size has changed, it really didn't say a whole lot. I just wanted to double check that we didn't miss something.
They were
Yeah.
just basically saying if we go over 5,000 square feet of filling, we'll need a water processor.
Right. Great. Do you have to file an ENF? Or are you just going for a NPDS permit? Do you have to do either of those?
I haven't looked at the MIPA aspect of this at all, and we would need an NPDES permit. This would be more than an acre of disturbance, so prior to
Right.
construction, we would certainly need that.
You would need that, yeah. I just wasn't sure about the ENF. I've lost
But
track of those regs.
The ENF, I don't know if we need any state permits,
Okay.
firstly, off the bat. And then I haven't studied the traffic documents enough to know whether we meet any of the thresholds for MIPA.
Yeah.
I don't think we do, and I don't think this portion of 139 is a state highway, so I don't think we need a state curb cut. State.
That's
name
139 is a
highway.
state highway right there.
It's all
Okay,
state.
so we
And
would need, we would need a state permit, so if we meet the thresholds, we would need any, we'll look into that.
Okay, all right. I think I'm
Okay,
done.
good.
I had a lot of
We're,
questions. Thank you.
Gonna close
Those
this.
are all really constructive questions, and if we do need me, then thank you.
Yeah, because
Because
better
then
to
we'll have
know.
it.
Yeah, well, and you'll have the state curb cut if you need it too, so.
And with that, I'd like to open it up to the public with any comments. Anybody out there? Okay, we'll close that up, and at this point, well, we're asking you for a bunch of stuff, so
We'd probably continue, do you meet every 2 weeks or once a month?
every 2 weeks.
So we probably would not be ready to come back in 2 weeks. We're gonna
Okay.
be going and working with the planning board a little bit.
When's your
Um,
next planning board meeting?
First,
July 11th, yeah.
Do you think you guys will be done by then with them, or do you think you need till August? I don't know.
Probably not,
Probably
but
not?
we might.
Do you want to tentatively put on for a month from now, and then you can always postpone it if you want?
Yeah.
Get something after the 11th.
Yeah,
we can start picking away at the list in the
Our
interim
meeting
regardless.
is the 11th.
We will be
So-
meeting the 11th and the 25th of July.
So why don't we do
The 25th. You would like to go with the 25th?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that would make more sense.
At a minimum, we can give you an update.
yeah,
If you
Yes.
have closure,
Yeah.
report that the planning board is approved.
great.
So then hopefully everything will come forward that we've asked for, and
Yeah,
we'll go from there.
great, I think I agree
Excellent.
with this. We'll try to forward our list
Good luck with the other boards.
through the commission to make sure we got it all. But I think-
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Very good, thank
Thank
you.
you.
And good luck. Now to go on to old business, which was a continued hearing for 380 North Ave, Walsh Mechanical. We have an email asking for a continuance from Russell Wheatley. Everybody have a copy of this? Right? And they are asking for no particular date. Or did they know?
No. But I
Okay.
know they,
If it's not on the next agenda, then,
no, I think they have to go back to planning.
okay. Then we'll just leave this open as a continuance if it's okay with
I
the board?
think we have to move it to a date. Do you want to move it to the 25th?
Or if they want
Because if they're meeting the planning boards the 11th.
I would prefer to move it to the 11th, and they can send us another.
Okay.
In case they're ready.
That's fine.
Yeah,
Okay, and then they can just email us asking for another
Yeah. I
continuance.
make a
Yeah.
motion to continue the hearing to July
Second it.
11th.
Second it?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. That's done, and with that being said, all the building permits I handled, there's no problems. And has everybody had a chance to read the minutes from May 23rd? And do I have a motion on that?
I'll make a motion, we accept the minutes from May 23rd.
All in favor?
Aye.
Well, that ends the meeting for tonight.
I
Thank-
just have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You were gonna go up and look at,
All done. And you're talking about Chestnut Street?
yeah,
All done, and he came to Nancy, and the Board of Selectmen have, well, the
he's gotta go through the planning board.
planning board, okay?
Oh, right,
So
because
we're
they
all
moved
set
it.
with that, but he
Yeah.
has been notified, he did come up and talk to Nancy about that and going through the correct procedure.
Yeah.
Great, and he put the silt fence up, I saw that, so that was
Yes,
good too.
yes. Matter of fact, he volunteered, even though it was part of the notice of intent, he said, I'll get that right up, so.
and the other question I had was about over here with the hay bales. We talked about it at the last meeting over the high school, I guess water was running through
To the
into the
development?
development next door.
Nothing that I know of has been done or said about it.
Okay, just,
I haven't heard any more. Has anybody heard any more?
I haven't heard anything about
I just heard it from the board that evening,
it. Okay.
so. That's it.
We don't have any correspondence?
No,
No.
that was it.
That was it.
And it looks like Jerry was busy again. With all the building permits.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good.
So unless something comes in, if we don't meet until the 11th.